Everyone has nightmares. But for actors, they can take a very different form because their worst nightmares happen when they are wide awake. Hi, I'm Luann Moldavin, and welcome to The Actor's Nightmare. We have a great story today, but before we get into it, I want to thank our sponsors who have been so supportive of the show. First, a big shout out to Artists Repertory Theater, Portland's premier regional theater company, producing intimate, provocative shows that provide a home for a diverse community of artists where they can thrive and take risks. Check out their 2019-2020 season at www.artistrep.org. Also, thanks so much to our patrons, Bob Conklin, and to Len and Susan Magazine and their company Real Estats, providing statistical overviews for residential real estate in Oregon and Washington. Check them out at www.realestats.net. And of course, we are so grateful for the studio at North Rim, where we record our podcast. If you want to do a show, check them out at studioatnorthrim.com. All right, so today we have in the studio Gavin Hoffman. Hello, Gavin.
Hi.
You came to Portland back, I don't know, a decade or so ago.
I grew
right?
up in Portland, and I left for 17 years and then moved back in the end of 2009.
Okay, I guess 10 years was right. So from New York, right?
Yeah, I'd lived all over the country. I'd lived in California and New Orleans, hence, go Saints, and went to school in Ithaca, did an internship at the Shakespeare Theater in D.C., spent 10 years in New York, and then moved back to Portland.
Doing theater and
a lot of bartending, which is part of doing theater.
It sure is.
Yeah.
I did that. Oh, yeah, I get it. And you have a story today about going up. And for those who don't know what that means...
Yeah, I do. Every actor drops a line here and there in a production, and you walk off stage afterwards and you're like, sorry, I missed that moment.
Sure.
When you actually go up, it is like an eclipse, crosses the mind. There's nothing. The whole play stops. Everything stops. There is no... When you're in it, you truly believe in your heart of hearts there is no saving it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's hopeless.
Hopeless.
And it's an abyss.
And you sink into almost like an instantaneous depression of I should go do something else with my life. I bet I could do shipping at Lowe's. I bet, I probably should have been better in biology. Any number of things. Like you watch crab fishing shows and you're like, yeah, that would be artistically fulfilling. There's just, when you truly do it, when you do it right, and by right I mean horribly wrong.
Horribly wrong.
There is nothing. It is the nothing from a Never-Ending Story. It's this blackness that just crosses your mind.
Yeah, and it's full of horror.
Yes, it is.
Othello?
Yeah.
Where did you do that production?
Portland Center Stage.
Okay. You were playing Iago.
Yeah, it was my second production at PCS. I had done Clybourne Park the year before, which was my first production there. Mm-hmm. And then I was lucky enough to play Iago, which had been my dream role.
Oh, yeah.
And, so I got cast about 10 months in advance. Mm-hmm. So I came into the first rehearsal off book for the first about 3.5 acts of the 5 acts. And the end of that play is super complicated, super dialogue-y. The monologue-y part is really super easy to memorize because you're just alone in a room. You can do it in the shower.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to memorize that pitter-patter stuff. I came in feeling really prepared for the rehearsal process. And day one, we got cuts. Because Othello, if you do the whole script, is a good 4 hours or so. And Chris Coleman, the director, wanted to get it down to just under 3 hours to be a reasonable human being for modern audiences. So he made a lot of cuts. And a lot of those cuts, of course, were internally in my soliloquies. There's I didn't count the soliloquies. There's 7 or 8 of good. And so, I had to unlearn...
That is so hard, isn't it? Unlearning is harder than learning, right?
Yeah, I had to unlearn what it took almost a year to learn.
Oh,
and then internally you're making the logical jumps because I had already made the synapses work for the full script, and then now you have to make new logical leaps to the
Yep.
next idea, right? And so so that was a challenge during rehearsal, and I kept tripping myself up and trying not to beat myself up about it. And so anyway, we got into previews, and now when I did Clybourne Park, what was great about PCS, and certainly because Clybourne Park was my first job there, the first preview had you do an invited dress, which has mostly staff at PCS. So it's 20, 25 people in a
Right.
600-seat house. And then the first preview is maybe 100 people. So it seems empty in that big space.
Yeah.
And so you kind of slowly build bigger and bigger audiences. So you just kind of get acclimatized to having people there and kind of understanding how the audience reacts because they're part of the play. You know?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so, but with Othello, so I walked into the previews expecting that for Othello, and I didn't get that. We walked into full houses. We walked into I don't know if they were full, but they were.
There was no build. It was just boom.
No, it's just into the
Capacity.
fire, just have fun. We had a rotating set that looked like a castle on stage, big on a turntable, and it was just enormous. It was an enormous production, and so anyway, Leif Norby, who's an actor who's amazing and just a delightful human being,
Yes.
a very giving guy. He's playing Rodrigo, and we just had so much fun during rehearsals together and getting to know each other. And that relationship you have to like each other, I think, if you're going to play that relationship properly. And having Leif there was wonderful. And so anyway, we're doing the Senate scene happens. At the end of the Senate scene, Iago convinces Rodrigo to take a bunch of money and come to Cyprus with them, right? Because he wants Desdemona's love and blah, blah, blah. So he's like, cash everything out, sell your land, whatever you have to do, put money in thy purse and come with us. Anyway, there's a bunch of cuts in that speech that I thought I knew. And so I get about 2/3 of the way through the speech, packed house.
And this was not opening or anything.
No,
You've been doing
we hadn't
this.
opened yet.
Oh, this was your previews,
This was
right? With the packed already.
Second, third preview. We had big audiences, but it felt previews are just so you're making adjustments during the day. So it's a rehearsal day. You have 4 hours of rehearsal, and then you have a dinner break, and then you have to do a show. So you're bringing in new information during that week. So it's high stress.
Oh yeah.
For guys like playing Othello and Iago and Desi, and so you're just getting a lot of information. So and you don't want to not take the notes. So you're making adjustments constantly, and so there's a lot on your mind. And I'm not typically a sweaty actor during previews. Up until opening night is when I sweat the most, and then I'd stop sweating during a run of the show. I'm not a sweater.
Okay.
But until then, yeah, it's bad. And so anyway, we get to the put money in my purse speech, and I was supposed to say, my next line was supposed to be pretty simple. It's supposed to be, seek thou rather to be hanged, encompassing thy joy, than to be drowned and go without her. That's my line, because the line before that had been cut. I could not think of it. My mind, I had gone through this speech word for word, verbatim, word perfect, and then black. Just gone. Just,
Oh, God.
I knew nothing.
Oh.
And I don't know how long there was silence for. I have no idea. You have no sense of time as an actor.
No.
You just don't. And so I just didn't. I could see Leif's eyes because we're very close to each other.
Yeah.
And they kind of get big. And so the next thing that came out of my mouth was the next line in the actual script that had been cut day one of rehearsal. So Leif had never heard it.
Oh,
and it's way more complicated than the line I can remember. So instead of saying, seek thou rather to be hanged encompassing thy joy than to be drowned and go without her, I said, if sanctimony and a frail vow betwixt an erring barbarian and a super-subtle Venetian be not too hard for my wit and all the tribe of hell, thou shalt enjoy her. But I said that line really slow in order to buy myself time to remember the next line. So I'm doing double duty, and I still couldn't think of the next line.
And Leif is not hearing any.
He just
nothing
heard
familiar.
this sentence, sanctimony. He's just word salad came out of him. He has no idea. what the hell I just said. He had never heard those words spoken by anybody. I mean, he had done Othello before. I think he played Iago, so I'm sure he was familiar with it vaguely. But like, so his eyes are like saucers, like just what the hell is going on? And I look at him, and my eyes are saucers too. I mean, I have a naturally squinty face, but
No.
they're as saucery as they can get. And I'm gone. I have nothing.
That was
I
it.
have nothing. And so Leif said his next line after the speech, which is, I don't know, somebody could look it up in the.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm going with you.
I have more to say.
But
I
he
didn't-
just knew
he
it wasn't
knew that
coming.
It just wasn't going to happen. It's like there was no chance in hell.
Oh, my God.
I mean, we could have sat down and ate sandwiches and finished them, and I still wouldn't know my lines. And so he just said his next line, and then I knew what my next line was.
You did.
I had a cue, and so I said, we finished the scene. So we get off stage, and in pure Leif fashion, being the sweetheart that he is,
Yes.
we get off stage, and he grabs me, and we go backstage to the slab, because we don't talk in the wings, because you
Yeah.
can hear it. So we get off stage and to behind the stage where we can't be heard. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh.
I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I totally cut you off. I'm like, Leif, you threw me a lifeboat, man. You were the hero of this story. Like, there was no saving me until you jumped in. Like,
You were cutting me off from nothing.
you are my hero. I was like 2 seconds away from peeing myself. Like, I
Oh, my
don't.
God.
And I'm like, no, like we're good. I mean, there's not much time to be precious about
Yeah,
those moments when
yeah.
you're playing Iago. So we're like, no, we're good. We'll talk later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So did you ever get to tell him later that actually I was remembering lines I had never said before?
Every time we hang out, out around other actors and stuff, I always tell that story. I want to, build him up as the hero that he is, because he is, my captain.
Yes,
captain,
he
my
is.
captain.
He's all our captain.
Yeah, he's great.
Oh God, those moments when you don't know what to say, and nothing like it. And thank goodness, polite as he is, he cut you off, quote unquote.
Yeah, and I mean,
because you would have been standing there for another.
And that has happened to every single actor,
Of
and
course.
it's been dealt with in different ways.
Yes.
By, I don't care if you're John Gielgud. I don't care if you're,
Absolutely.
starting out at some community theater in Podunk, whatever. It's
That
happened.
is the universality of the actor's nightmare, Gavin.
Yeah.
Actually, thank you,
Yeah,
because
nightmare.
I couldn't have wrapped this story up any better.
Yeah, it's true.
Thanks for sharing. Thank you so much for tuning into The Actor's Nightmare. If you have a story you'd like to share and want to be on the show, it's really easy. Just record it into your phone and send it in an email to actorsnightmarepodcast@gmail.com. And remember to subscribe to the Actor's Nightmare podcast. You can go to our website at www.actorsnightmarepodcast.com, choose subscribe, and then choose the platform that you like to use to listen to podcasts. Please subscribe if you like what you hear. And again, I want to thank our sponsors, Artist Repertory Theater, Portland's premier regional theater company, and to Bob Conklin, an ardent sponsor of all things theatrical here in Portland. And finally, to Real Estats, providing statistical overviews for residential real estate in Oregon and Washington. This is Luann Moldovan. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time on The Actor's Nightmare.